Greetings and welcome to Flanigan's Ecologic. I am your host, Ted Flanigan, and today I'm joined by Susan Gladwin. She's currently working for an organization out of the UK called Planetary Guidelines. We're going to talk about that. She's recently completed a stint at the U.S. Department of Energy and the Loan Programs Office, administering Title 17 clean energy programs with an emphasis on virtual power plants. Part of her bio presents her mission, which is applying capital and creativity to the rapid deployment of democratized clean energy. Happy to have Susan on the podcast today. Hi, Susan. Welcome to the podcast. It's very nice to meet you.
It's great to be here, Ted. Thank you.
And where are you now? I'm guessing you're in Mill Valley, California. Am I right?
I am in Mill Valley, California, home office.
That's home for you. And are you a California native?
I'm not. I come from Ohio originally. I grew up there, and then I went to school back east and spent almost 4 years in Europe. And then I made a beeline to California. It's where I've been the last 30-some years.
I just drove by Northampton and Amherst a couple days ago. I see that you went to UMass Amherst.
That's right. It's a beautiful area.
Beautiful area. I was up there for a nephew's graduation from University of Vermont.
Nice.
So it was really great. Well, I've already introduced you. Tell me a little bit about Planetary Guidelines. That sounds like your latest thing, right?
Yeah. Well, Planetary Guardians actually is the name of the organization, and I'm just wrapping up a multi-month consulting project with them. But they are a number of prominent people in the sustainability field. Folks like Paul Pullman, who was CEO of Unilever, Sylvia Earle, who is an oceans advocate and scientist, Jane Goodall, of course, others and some younger folks as well. These 20 or so prominent people around the world have come together to support the use of the Planetary Boundaries scientific framework, which was developed out of the Stockholm Resilience Center some time ago. And they're coming up with different ideas for things that would make this something that we can build into our ways of doing things. Last year, they released something called the Planetary Health Check at the UN General Assembly. So that'll be an annual check at how are we doing as a planet in Earth system boundaries. I've been working on something not yet announced, so I'll hold back on what that's about, but more things are in the works.
And it sounds exciting, and it sounds as though one of the things that this organization is doing is helping to appoint chief planetary scientists for governments around the world.
That's some of the idea there is to make this notion of planetary boundaries something that's localized and put into national context or even city context, and put into a governance system so that when we make plans and do things, we are in alignment with what would be considered a safe and just operating space for life on Earth.
And how's it going? I mean, there's almost a couple hundred countries in the world.
Yeah.
Are many of them adopting these boundaries?
Well, there are definitely countries that have done this already, as far as starting to take a look at where do they sit on their contribution, or the opposite of contribution, how they're transgressing the boundaries within their own borders. Some of those countries have undertaken reports and assessments on their own. Other folks have done these kind of studies, independently, but looking at different areas around the world. So I think we're just seeing the very beginning of what it will mean to look at this at a more localized, downscaled level. And to really bring this into the governments is going to be a whole nother wave. Early stage for sure.
Early stage. And then give me an example of one of the boundaries. I mean, I presume there's some related to climate change.
Yes,
maybe they're all related to climate change.
No. Climate change is really kind of one of 9 that have been identified. Okay. There'll probably be others over time. It's an evolving kind of framework. But things like fresh water, things like what's called novel entities, like microplastics and things like that, fertilizer runoff and so forth. So things that we've all known about, but just kind of put into one cohesive way of holistically looking at it.
Right. And are you encouraged when you start to take this framework, or?
Well, sure. Yes and no.
It would seem like we're exceeding the boundaries in many ways.
Of course we are. Of course, there's a lot of red indicators on this
Yeah. Yeah.
dashboard, so to speak. I guess what I'm encouraged about is that it is a global effort, and
Hmm.
there's some countries and even cities like folks up in the Nordic area are taking this very seriously,
Yep.
and I think this will be really the next wave. We already know that looking at climate change in isolation doesn't really get at the source of the problem. We need to look at land use and biodiversity and all these other things. So this is a way to put this together.
Is one of those Nordic countries is Denmark right in there?
Yeah, for sure.
And
Copenhagen
they,
has got already, they have been doing an annual report on planetary boundaries the last 3 years. And
yeah.
there's proposal to work together with Oslo and Helsinki on a Nordic cities kind of cluster around the planetary boundaries.
And I saw that you spent some time at the University of Copenhagen. Is
Yeah.
that
Yeah, I did a
Copenhagen
semester
University?
abroad. I did a semester abroad there, which was really wonderful. I studied international political economy, which was a great complement to the more technical degree that I had was just about to complete. But then I realized I needed to go abroad, and I just got to visit my son, who's doing the same program this year. Which
Oh, how great! I just and I love
yeah,
Copenhagen. It's
it's
just such a great. Well, now you talked a little bit about your
yeah,
degree from Amherst, UMass Amherst
yes,
was a Bachelor of Science, Computer and Information Science,
that's right. Yeah, software engineering back in the day.
and you've come a long way.
Yeah, I have come a long way. So have computers. Yeah, that was all
Yeah,
mainframes. You had to go to a place to work on these things.
yeah, I
Um,
do remember that. I
yeah,
do remember that. Well, let's talk about the Loan Programs Office. You
sure.
were there for what, 2.5 years,
Yeah,
working
yeah,
with Jigar Shah, who is somebody I greatly respect and I've known for years.
yes,
And it sounds like you just had a flurry of activity at the end of the Biden administration.
for sure.
But
Yeah,
tell me about your role there, and then what was it like as you sort of
yeah.
saw the end in sight? It must have been kind of grim.
Well, yeah. I mean, and I'll just, as you mentioned, Jigar Shah was brought in to be the director of the loan programs office, and you've got an
Yep.
episode with him. So folks who want to hear more about that as an overall should definitely tune into your episode talking with Jigar. Um, I came in the summer of 22, which was right the week after the Inflation Reduction Act passed, which was the bill that funded the huge expansion of what the loan programs office could do. So going from
Hmm.
a $40 billion office, which had been around for some time and had done some really important projects, to a $400 billion office, which made it the world's largest green bank.
Yeah.
So it was when Jigar asked me to join, he was ramping up the team as rapidly as he could just to accommodate this influx and build a project pipeline beyond what was already there and really open the doors. I mean, our big kind of thing was LPO is open for business. Let's go. Let's deploy.
Yep.
And it was just it was just really an incredibly wonderful and exciting time to be part of that team. The culture that
That must have
he brought forth, and the collegiality, the fact that we knew this was a moment in time, not to be repeated,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know, to just take it as far as we could. It was really a very can-do atmosphere, a lot of kind of almost startup feel, building the plane as we were flying it type of thing, getting
Yeah.
processes figured out, and yet making sure we didn't compromise the due diligence and rigor and quality that were needed to make sure that these companies, worthy companies, could pay back the loans and pay back the taxpayers.
Yep. And what percentage of that $400 billion was for the Title 17? I guess Title
Yeah.
17 came about from
Mm.
what, the Energy Policy Act of
Yeah.
2005, something like
Honestly,
that.
I don't know these specifics, to be honest. I just
But
sort of
a
dropped
big,
in and went heads down.
yeah,
My main focus was on Title 17 myself,
yeah,
although there were some other program areas that I overlapped in, for example, tribal and some of the utility work with
mhm,
enterprise infrastructure reinvestment. So yeah, there was Title 17 was definitely the bulk of it, and the so the project area I chose to focus on was virtual power plants, and that was a really great place to work in because there's so much innovation, so many great companies that were well proven in the market, but really on the cusp of commercialization, which was really the thesis of the loan programs office was to build a bridge to bankability. such that we could get commercial backers, private sectors to get behind these kinds of technologies in
Yeah.
the market.
And it seems like such a tough challenge. You sort of have you didn't say this, but you sort of have a hurry up and go.
Hmm.
You're building it as you fly, and you don't have a whole lot of time. On the other
Right.
hand, you need to do your due diligence and make sure that
Right.
these companies are going to be, for the most part, there's going to be some failures, but for the most
Yes.
part, you want to make sure that they really are going to be able to repay their loans and just have that.
Yes.
You're just giving them that bridge to bankability. So how is that dynamic?
Yes.
It seems like a very difficult tension.
It was. It was the daily dynamic, daily topic.
Yeah.
And if anything, I think I picked this up in Jigger's conversation with you. I think there was a push to take on more risk than might have been the case, just because when you're dealing with such large numbers and there's kind of an inertia towards like taking the safe route, it's easier path. But our job was to take this not so much technology risk, just really execution risk.
Hmm.
And in some ways that's easier to validate. I mean, we did have technology assessment as well, but making sure teams could follow through, making sure that they had offtake agreements and so
Yeah.
forth. And once that stuff was in place, it was pretty simple to just gather up the steam and go forward.
So, what kind of virtual power plant projects were you funding? I always think of Sunrun as
Mhm.
being way out ahead
Yeah.
in the game. Did they need more? Did that organization need more money, or was it smaller organizations that had different types of software, or what kinds of things were you
Yeah.
funding?
It was sort of all of the above. Hardware, software. Some companies were really around project deployment, getting the equipment out there. Some were more just pure play software, where they would work with an aggregator of aggregators, be an aggregator of aggregators, and work with multiple companies who had multiple devices, and then
Mhm.
make possible wholesale energy market trading. Um, and then some were more on the financier side, where they'd underwrite them, use our funds to underwrite revenue advances or financing to residential or commercial installations of this kind of equipment. And it could be really any kind of devices, generation stuff around solar, but also there was a geothermal VPP in the works.
Really?
We
Yeah.
had, of course, storage, and then all the vehicle aspects of participating in grid flexibility. We had anything that could really provide power in an aggregated way, like stuff that could melt snow on roofs, or stuff that could, heat water for different uses, and all kinds of things could be VPPs, which was
Sounds
really fun.
really, yeah, it
Yeah,
sounds really, really interesting. And how
yeah.
many companies were you involved with then? Would you say? I mean, is it
Well,
dozens or 100 or not?
um, I would say definitely lots, lots. I guess I'm kind of honoring the confidentiality still.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't want to go anywhere that we shouldn't go.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
for sure.
certainly lots. I mean, yeah, and I can talk about one of the projects I worked on was announced before the administration changeover, which was a close to $300 million commit or close with a company called SunWealth, based out of Massachusetts, and they're a great company doing solar and storage and virtual power plant enablement, partnering with a technology partner for that last piece on commercial, small scale commercial and industrial. So houses of worship, pet shelters, that types of thing, and making it more affordable for those communities, which I really, really appreciated. There was another company that I worked on their project called Nostromo, and they got a conditional close. I can't speak to the status now, but they are a VPP based on thermal storage um, technology that they invented, and that goes on the roof of places like built hotels and so forth. And so that was another close to $300 million project, and there were so many others along these lines.
And not to go too far into the VPP world, but
Yeah.
essentially, virtual power plants are built by individuals and private individuals, private companies that have invested in some sort of energy features, whether it's storage or solar or like vehicle to
Mhm.
grid even or whatever. And then the utilities are given a modicum of control
Mhm.
of those devices, right? So that it becomes effectively integrated with the grid. Is that a fair
Yeah.
characterization?
Yeah, at a high level. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then there's sort of this layer in between the device owners, and then the operators of the grid, and this layer in between is typically software, but hardware enabled through like smart panels and so forth, that moderates the push and the pull of the flow of the energy, and do we need to drop down demand because we're in a heat spell like we had in California a couple of years ago, and
Hmm.
my utility, Pacific Gas and Electric, put out the call like, could everybody please just hold the line on your
Yep.
air conditioning a little bit, and then we can keep the lights on, which happened, and that's basically a VPP in action with some software facilitating that in the middle.
Pretty good stuff. And those are I always think of those as the aggregators, but they're really
Yes.
they're the aggregators, brokers, they're the
Yeah.
managers of all the
Yeah.
individual systems. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Interesting. Now, what happened? Where are those projects now in terms of? Is there any
Mm.
chance of a clawback of these loans, or once you guys closed a loan, are those secure now in this new administration? Or
I would refer to former Director Shaw.
oh, you okay?
But, as far as like the official word, but I mean, as far as I know, if it's closed, it's. I mean, you don't get the funds all at once immediately
Yeah,
in any situation like this. You're either getting a loan, which is going to be kind of parsed out
yeah,
um, upon meeting milestones and so forth. And there's a whole portfolio management group that works with the companies on that, or a loan guarantee, which is just there to backstop if needed. So, but I mean, it's legal agreements.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so here's a tough question. What was it like in the office when in November when Biden lost and Trump won? What was the? I mean, I can guess what the sentiment was, but talk
Hmm.
about that a little bit.
Sure. Well, um, I can't say that it was different than any other place in some ways. It was just a slice of America going through this chapter of America. Certainly, a lot of questions about what would this do to the projects and the companies, and how would it affect the future there. But
Yeah,
nobody had answers at that point in time, so it was just kind of like a bit of throwing your hands up and like, let's keep going, because that was all the only real option that we had. And our secretary was really clear that we just needed to kind of keep the work going
yeah,
as part of our job. So it was a really great end of year. We had our second annual Deploy conference in DC and brought together all the companies and all the community across the whole clean energy transition in the U.S. working together on these things, and the people backing them and supporting them in different ways. And the secretary spoke there as well. And it was really a great culmination of the work we'd done to that point. But that was not like the end in the sense that there was still January, there was still some amount of runway to get more projects out the door, and the organization was very very focused on making that happen in a kind of unprecedented way as far
yeah.
as
I kind
staffing.
of imagine a lot of overtime going on.
Yeah, yeah,
A lot of overtime, and yet again, we have still that tension of making sure that there is
sure.
the due diligence, right?
Oh, certainly. I mean, it was, yeah. Oh, never, never, never was that dropped in any fashion.
Yeah.
No.
And I know it's not your thing, but what is the
Mhm.
loan programs office doing now? I thought it had actually just closed down, but
Oh, no.
it sounds like the clean energy side of it has been gutted, or certainly grossly de-emphasized. But yeah, what's going on with an LPO now?
Well, they're on, I believe, a director came in to take Director Shaw's place. Somebody else has come back, somebody else, and then left, and then somebody else is there now in that role. So there's been some changeover, which I don't know what that's meant in terms of like clear direction for colleagues. I know that things are quote unquote in review, so I can't say for sure what will be happening. I know that Secretary Wright has indicated areas that he thinks are places of emphasis, but these funds were appropriated through Congress, so it would take an act of Congress to really change the statute that said whatever these funds go towards has to reduce emissions, for example, and has to be an actual energy project, for example. So those things are still in place, and you know I can't speak for the specifics of how that will play out, but the loan programs office continues and colleagues are still there and they're working on the projects. I also know some things have been taken down that were
Hmm.
on the website. So
Hmm.
listeners who might have noticed or are interested there, we had a bunch of liftoff reports that the Department of Energy put together. Those can be found elsewhere if you look for those on LinkedIn. Folks have posted those. There are also community benefit plans associated with the projects and required.
Hmm.
Um, those can be found elsewhere as well.
And you said that did I hear you right that all loans made by this office have to reduce emissions?
I might be speaking out of turn. I may be focusing just on Title 17,
The
but
Title 17. But I'm
yeah,
thinking, I'm thinking the other stuff might be clean coal. I know there's a lot of focus on mineral extraction.
yeah,
Maybe there's focus on advanced nuclear technologies and things like that are really going strong through the office.
yeah. Well, I mean, we know nuclear was already going strong. We already had announced some projects in that area. So I can't speak to clean coal. I don't really understand that as a
Yeah.
concept. I'll let that go.
It's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? Some of us think it's an oxymoron. Okay. How did you Let's go back. How did you get into this field? Um,
Mhm.
like you said, you were born in Ohio, college in Massachusetts. You were into science and information services. You had quite a progression to get into this field of very significant clean energy finance.
Yeah, it's true.
Go all the way back.
Yeah, well, conscious of our time, but let's see. I guess I would say, as far as how I ended up where I am now, I've always been interested in um, nature and ecology and experiencing what this planet's about. Both like as a as an outdoor recreationalist, as a advocate for environmental issues, kind of finding nature as a place of refuge as well. So those things have always been part of my life and influenced me.
Well, it
For
sounds like
yeah,
an early career step was going to Apple
sure,
and
right.
and working on iTunes, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, right. So my career was definitely much more technology oriented, Silicon Valley oriented, focused on innovation and changing the world, kind of at the Apple level for a number of years, and that was extremely rewarding. But I did reach a point with, especially at the later end of my time at Apple, when I was working on things like iTunes, where it just felt like, in the big picture, it wasn't going to be that meaningful to me to
Mhm.
enable another billion songs to be downloaded or whatever. It was
Yeah,
just it
yeah.
was just time to figure out what else matters to me, and the field of clean tech was sort of coming to the fore, and that was a nice combination of putting my interest together with the technology background. Um, so that's what I moved into, and I spent some pro bono time in different some nonprofits,
Yeah.
kind of getting my domain knowledge about what clean tech was about, and that led me to be able to go into Autodesk and build their clean tech market strategy and a global accelerator to help companies in that space around the world, and then take that up from the entrepreneurial level up to more the industry level, which kind of led to me understanding more about energy as one of the factors, which I think set me up for coming into the loan programs office.
Talk a
Less
little.
so on the finance side, but
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Explain the Autodesk role a little bit
Sure.
more.
Yeah. Well, it was another great organization at another great point in time. That CEO at the time, Carl Bass, was very, very supportive of what it meant to get sustainability off the ground at Autodesk. It was a very new team. Um, so we were looking at, like I said, the one piece I focused on for a number of years was this up and coming clean tech market, and how do we back this next generation of types of customers? How do we facilitate their innovations to have more impact? And then looking beyond that, there was more of a thought leadership exercise around what is the role of design and impact. And I remember going to some early conferences on this around clean tech, and they were like, "Why are you here?" And it's like, well, because we help people design and build everything. And when you design is when you make the choice about resource use, materials and energy and everything else. So it took a while to connect the dots. I think but now it's sort of understood that a company like that has quite a role to play in enabling the practitioners around the world.
Absolutely. Can you give an example from
Well,
those years?
sure. I mean, making a better decision about anything you're making, like I said, for example, when you're designing a building, you could design it for net zero or not, and the software can help you do that. And
Hmm.
you could set up the software so that it defaults to being operating within the lowest amount of energy use, or you could let the user figure that out. And I would suggest it'd be better to aim for the best outcome and let the user back off from that rather
Default
than
default to the
require
best. Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
yeah, to understand and take all those other steps. But making those types of trade-offs.
Yeah. And then you founded something called, was it Collaborate Energy?
Well, I founded Ready, Set, Replace, which was acquired by Collaborate Energy, and that was coming out of Autodesk. I was really kind of intensely focused on retrofit as a
Mm.
climate play, getting gas out of buildings because I could see that design is great early stage for new things, but much of the energy and climate impact is on our existing building stock, and so we have to figure out how to retrofit. And at the residential level, I kept running into prominent clean tech founders who would confidentially tell me they'd had a hot water heater fail and they had to replace it with gas, and they felt very bad because they knew the effect. So the idea was, let's get people ready before things fail,
Yeah.
because it's too late to make the decision on the spot usually, and to do that at city scale. So that's I had partnerships with cities to do this in a more aggregated fashion.
And so how would a city help a homeowner be ready? I mean, I remember I
Yeah,
used to work at Rocky Mountain Institute, and I remember
right.
we wrote a report about hot water heaters and how
Yeah,
when your
sure.
hot water heater fails, you call the local plumber or
Yeah,
whatever, and he or she comes over, and on the truck is a unit. And you so desperately
yeah,
need your hot water because you're having a dinner party, or
definitely.
the kids need a shower, whatever, that you just
Right.
sort of take whatever it is. But again, how can we be better prepared?
Yeah. Well, cities. So I worked on my own town's climate action plan. So a lot of our cities have climate action plans where
Hmm.
they're setting their targets as a city across the population. How are we going to reduce our emissions to zero? And then slice up by sectors and strategies. So what a city can do is, I mean, they have the platform to educate the
Yeah.
people who live there and work there. They have the ability to back financing of volume purchases of equipment. They have ability to roll out neighborhood kind of contractor day where contractors going to come through and do assessments. There's a lot of things they can do proactively, and there are a couple cities that have stepped up to that I was working with.
Pretty exciting. And I see that you also ran for city council in Mill Valley.
I did.
Congratulate. I take it you did
Well, I
not.
didn't win.
You didn't win, but I give you a lot of, I give everybody a lot of credit for
Oh
diving
yeah,
in
I give anyone who takes that on a lot of credit
and
because
just
yeah,
local action, especially now with our
right.
current national administration. Local action seems to be
That's
really
right.
really where it's at.
Yes,
Hmm.
definitely.
So now, just here we are. Now we're back to the present. Do you see lots of travel in your new job?
Well, it's not a job. It's been a consulting project,
Okay.
and it's been basically it's actually been desk kind of virtual throughout. But I have taken advantage of some recent trips where I was in fact, I was in Copenhagen and got to talk with some of the people who are working on their planetary boundaries reports, for example. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I try to build that in when I have a chance.
So you mentioned, let's talk a little bit about balance and how
Mm.
somebody like you, who's obviously you must have had significant stress in these jobs along the way. You seem very relaxed, calm, cool, and collected. How do you do that?
Well, I think partly meditation is good. I'm sure other folks have talked about that on your show. Um, I think if you're working in a really aligned way with people that are, aligned together with you, it doesn't always feel as stressful. Like
Yeah.
some of that can come out when you're at odds. And I mean, there are conflicts that can arise in any situation, and just having some tools to deal with those, setting realistic expectations, and and yet finding ways to keep yourself and others really excited for the mission that you're on. Yeah.
So you're feeling pretty good about life, and despite the challenges, the current political challenges. I mean, I loved the line that I read: applying capital and creativity to the
Mm.
rapid deployment of democratized clean energy. That's a terrific mission that you have. Uh,
Hmm.
but you're feeling like that still carries on in different ways. I take it.
Yeah, that's kind of I envision my next chapter. I sort of set that out as a bit of an intention for myself. I would like to continue in the space of capital formation and deployment. It's a really interesting place to be, and capital will drive how this takes place, where the
Yeah.
money goes, and as U.S. federal government pulls back, a lot of other actors and players need to step up and can step up and want to. And I think some of it is just providing guidance for them, and also exhortation for them to do it,
Yeah.
take the bold move, whether that's a family foundation or philanthropy or commercial sectors. I mean, there's around the world, other governments are having to step up and figure out how they're going to manage, and same in this space as well. So it's not great. The upheaval is not great. There's a lot of fallout and catastrophe. I don't discount that, but I do think there's an opportunity, and I'm really going to focus on what's positive and what's possible going forward in
Thanks
that
so
way.
much. Thanks so much for what you've done, for what you're doing. Thanks for being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Likewise, Ted. Thank you for your work here.
That's it. Thanks for listening to Flanigan's EcoLogic. We'll see you next time.